I moved to Tampa about a year ago after losing my job up north. Florida was cheaper, warmer, and I found this apartment complex that backed up to a canal, the kind of narrow, murky water you see everywhere here. It smelled like algae and dead things, but I didn't mind. I just needed a place. The unit was ground floor, small porch in the back. Just beyond the porch, the canal, 20 feet of tall grass and muck, then water. No fence, no light, just dark swamp. One night during a storm, I stepped outside for some air. The rain was pounding, wind shaking the palms, lightning flashing like camera bulbs. That's when I saw it. At first, I thought it was a gator, but it moved wrong. Too tall. It stood on two legs, half hunched, long and wet and thin, like it had never stood upright before. It crawled out of the canal and onto the mud, dripping, shaking, twitching like it was learning how to move. Then it turned its head. I don't know if it saw me. I backed into my apartment, locked the door, turned off every light, and didn't sleep. In the morning, I told myself I'd imagined it, but when I opened the back door, there were muddy footprints, human-shaped, but too narrow, too long, leading from the water to my back porch, and one handprint on the glass sliding door. I checked the security cameras on the building. Nothing. The manager said they weren't working. Water damage from the storm. That night, I pushed a chair against the back door, slept on the couch with the TV on. Around 3:20 a.m., the motion light on the porch clicked on. I sat up. Something moved behind the curtain. A shadow, not a person. Taller, skinny, stuttering in its movement, like it didn't fully understand its own limbs. I didn't move. I just watched the light flicker and eventually shut off. The next morning, I found slime, thick, black-green sludge smeared along the bottom of the glass, like seaweed had been dragged across it. I called the landlord. He shrugged and said, "You're not the first tenant to mention things out there. This used to be swampland. You know that, right?" That night, I left the chair outside, just to test it. In the morning, the chair was gone. I found it 3 days later, halfway submerged in the canal, snapped in two. I moved out 2 weeks later, broke my lease, lost my deposit, but I still have dreams about it. That thing, crawling out of the water, twisting, learning, coming closer. And sometimes, when it rains hard enough here, I swear I smell that same mix of algae and rot, even though I'm nowhere near the canal anymore.
I used to work night shifts at a federal research facility about a mile outside the Everglades. It wasn't classified or anything, at least not officially. Most of the work done there was environmental, wetland studies, air quality, species tracking, that sort of thing. I was just a janitor, hired through a third-party contract. No security clearance, no questions asked. I liked the hours. It was quiet, and no one really messed with me. There were two of us on night crew, me and Darius. Chill guy. We'd arrive around 9 p.m., split the building in half, do our rounds, and meet around 2 for a break. The building was large but sterile. Long hallways, cold labs, buzzing lights, and this weird smell like bleach and damp metal. One night in late July, Darius never showed up for our usual break. I radioed him. Nothing. I tried again. Still nothing. I figured he was in the bathroom or maybe dealing with some spill. But 30 minutes passed. Then an hour. I went looking. His cart was outside Lab 6. The mop was still in the bucket. Floor half wet. Lights were on, but no sign of Darius. I checked the lab, clean, sterile, empty. Then I heard it, over the building intercom. Help me? It was faint, distorted, but real. I looked up. The speaker above the hallway door clicked again. Please help. I grabbed my radio. Darius? Is that you? No answer. But then the radio crackled. Downstairs, he whispered. I'm below? Below? There was no below. At least not on the maps I'd seen. The facility was single story. No basement. But I remembered something. A metal door at the far end of the supply hallway. Always locked. No label. I went there. To my surprise, the light above the door was green. It was unlocked. I opened it. A narrow stairwell led down. Rusted metal rails. The walls were wet. The air was thick, heavy. It smelled like something that had been sealed for too long. I went down slowly. 10 steps. Then 20. The stairs led into a long concrete tunnel. Flickering lights overhead. The floor was slick. Water dripping from somewhere. The air felt wrong, like it wasn't meant to be breathed. Then I heard it. Not footsteps. Something dragging. Slow. Scraping. Wet. I called out, Darius. Silence. Then the lights flickered. I turned around. The door at the top of the stairs had closed. Hard. I ran back, heart pounding, climbed 2 steps and stopped. There was something at the bottom of the tunnel. Not Darius. Not human. It stood too still. Too narrow. Shoulders wrong. Like it was stitched together out of wet fabric and bone. It moved. I bolted. I didn't stop until I got to the security office. But no one was there. Night guard must have been on rounds. I left a note, grabbed my keys, and drove straight home. Next morning, I called my supervisor. Told him everything. He said Darius had called in sick the night before. But I saw his cart. I heard his voice. They checked the logs. That stairwell door, still locked. They reviewed camera footage, but there was no record of me ever going down there. No tunnel, no footage. And Darius never came back. 2 days later, a package arrived at my apartment. No return label. Inside, a walkie-talkie. Batteries pre-installed. I picked it up. It was on. Nothing for a few seconds. Then, breathing, wet, shallow, and a voice. You shouldn't have opened that door.
I moved to a small beachside town on Florida's Gulf Coast about a year ago. The kind of place where people ride beach cruisers barefoot and wave at strangers. I'd just gotten out of a bad relationship and needed peace. And cheap rent. The house was old but charming. 1 bedroom. Tiny kitchen. Just 2 blocks from the shoreline. The only weird part. No curtains on the bedroom window. It faced the backyard. And beyond that, a strip of dune grass that led straight to the beach. First it was paradise. Then the shells started showing up. It began in week 2. I woke up, walked past the window, and there was a shell sitting neatly on the sill. Just sitting there. Clean. Round. Not something you'd find naturally. It looked placed. I figured it blew there in the wind. But the next morning there were 2. Then 3. Always different. Always pristine. Sometimes conch, sometimes spiral. Always arranged in a line. Like someone was collecting them for me. That would have been sweet. If it wasn't for the fact that my windowsill was 10 feet off the ground. And I lived alone. I asked my landlord if anyone had access to the yard. He said the back gate had been nailed shut for years. I thought maybe kids were climbing up, pranking me. So I set up my phone on the dresser to record overnight. The next morning I checked the footage. Nothing at first. Just wind, faint crickets. Then, around 3:42 a.m., the feed froze. For exactly 11 seconds. When it resumed, the window had 2 new shells. No sound, no shadow, no hand, just cut to shells. I brushed it off. Maybe the app glitched. The next night I watched it live from my other phone. Nothing. Until a soft scraping sound came from the glass. And a whisper. I couldn't make out the words. Just the sound of wet breath against the glass. Froze. Didn't open the blinds. Didn't move. Waited until daylight. When I finally looked, there were tiny wet footprints on the outside ledge. Like a child's, but thinner, longer. I installed motion lights. They never triggered. I poured sand across the backyard path. Smooth, untouched. Next morning, a perfect trail of bare footprints leading from the dunes. Right up to the wall, but none leading away. Called the sheriff. He came, looked around and said, "You know, years ago, this place used to be part of a kids' camp. 1960s. Some bad stuff happened. Drownings. They shut it down." He didn't elaborate. That night I locked everything. Left every light on. But at 3:44 a.m., I woke up to a soft tapping on the glass. I didn't look. Couldn't. The next morning I found a large shell, cracked down the center, sitting alone. Inside it, a piece of paper. Faded. But on it a single sentence. "I like watching you sleep." I moved inland within a week. To this day, I won't go near beaches at night. And if I ever see a shell on my windowsill, I don't check. I just move again.